It's Saturday, April 15th, 2023. I hope everybody's having a great weekend, and I hope everybody's taking a little bit of time and adding to their preparations this weekend. I'm going to share a few articles with you that I was just reading this morning. Please feel free to comment down below. Also, make sure that you subscribe to this channel. If you want to support this channel, if you want to support the message, the best thing you can do is make sure to subscribe. So hit that subscription button right down below. Make sure you like this video and make sure that you share all my videos. Share them everywhere. I want to start with this first article on CNBC. Jamie Dimon issues warning on rates. It will undress problems in the economy, he says. Dimon says plan for interest rates to remain higher for longer than currently expected by the market. Every day I watch these channels on the television. There is so much hope that the Fed is going to pivot, that the Fed is going to lower rates this year. There is just so much hope that this is going to take place. Don't expect this to happen, ladies and gentlemen. Now, is the Fed going to lower rates at some point? Could they reverse course, pivot, start flooding the market with QE? Yes, very, very possible. And that's why it's going to be so important that you're holding some gold. Because when things begin to really implode and they lose control, the only thing they're going to be able to do is print a lot of money. And this is where the end game begins. This is when you're going to see hyperinflation. This will be really the end of the dollar as we know it. This is when I think that the economy spirals out of control. And this is when I think China will take over as a world superpower. That's my opinion. Now, there's no guarantee that that's going to happen. Maybe the Fed sticks to its guns and puts us into a Great Depression. But if they don't and they reverse course, we're going to see hyperinflation that is going to be worse than any Great Depression. Again, if this happens like Jamie Dimon says, and these problems get undressed, the economy, for those who are exposed to floating rates, are going to be in very, very big trouble. Jamie Dimon said in the article that he told all of his clients to prepare for the risk of higher rates and smaller banks could fail. The banking crisis is far from over. In fact, it's just beginning. The regional banks and smaller banks are going to be in very, very big trouble here. They're tightening up lending right now. Many of them literally have no cash left and are going to have to sell assets. They're going to have to discount these assets in order to be able to unload them. And many are just not going to be able to survive. And we're going to see more smaller and regional banks. And of course, I think we're going to see some big banks go down too. Nobody's going to be immune from what is coming. And a lot of this is going to be exposed as the economy worsens, as rates go up, and the cheap money disappears. A lot of this is going to be exposed, just like the zombie companies, just like the banks, all going to be exposed. And of course, people are going to be exposed too. People that you know, who you think have money, you're going to find out that all of it was based on credit, debt, that they didn't really have money. All these people you see on social media showing you what they're eating, drinking, vacationing, you're going to find out that these people weren't really rich. They had a lot of debt. All this, their lifestyle was supported or based on credit. And this is all going to be exposed. So you want to be sitting right now on the sidelines, I believe being defensive, a pile of cash and a pile of assets and no debt or very little debt. That's what I'm doing because the sales are coming. We're going to see a deflationary period coming to America where things are going to be on sale. And you should be holding cash. You should be holding gold and silver. If cash goes up, more than like that's going to put precious metals down. If the dollar begins to go down, then you're going to see gold and silver go up. And so I think you need both of these because one's going to go up and one's going to go down and vice versa. And at some point, the dollar is going to go down and it's going to stay down. And at that point, it's going to be the people who hold real assets that are going to survive versus the people who are holding paper who will not survive. The hedge. There is no fix. John Rubino warns global monetary experiment ends in bloodbath. The government has two choices, he says. Let it burn and have a 1930 style depression or bail out everybody in sight at the cost of rising inflation and the dollar tanking. And again, this would be hyperinflation. This would basically turn America into another Venezuela. This would be literally the end of America at this point. If we lose the dollar, we're in very, very big trouble. I don't think there's any coming back from that. I think America, the only way we salvage this right now, it would take a lot, but I think we have to back the dollar to some degree with gold. We'd have to open up pipelines. We have to start cutting taxes. We have to start promoting small business, cutting small business taxes, doing whatever we can to get people to open small businesses, support the small business owners however we can, lend them money, cut their taxes. We have to get businesses back here to America. And most of all, this country needs to stop spending money that it cannot afford to spend. So again, you got to cut taxes. You got to deregulate. You got to open up the pipelines, and you've got to start supporting small businesses, cutting their taxes and doing everything we can to embrace and enhance small business in this country and stop the spending. That would be huge. That's the only way that we turn this around. And I think that we would have to back the dollar at least, maybe 20, 25% with gold. And of course, that would revalue the price of gold. That's what we'd have to do. But this is what China's going to do, ladies and gentlemen. They're opening up 2 coal mines a week. They're mining all over the world. They are taking monopoly money and buying real assets throughout the world. They're manufacturing everything. And this is why I believe that the torch is being passed on to China right now. And it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be this way, but this is the way it's going. The next bailout creates a lot of new dollars and pushes down the dollar. And then we are in a death spiral when there is no fix. And this is John Rubino. He says that we should all be preppers right now. And I agree 100%. And there's so many people out there that just believe that this is going to be temporary, that this just means that home sale prices on homes are going to be half off, and people are just going to go in and take advantage of this, and then everything's going to be fixed and everything's going to move forward. This is so much different than anything we've been in. First off, this depression that we are entering is going to last a very, very long time. It's going to last years. I believe it's going to change the landscape of America. America is not going to look the same. I believe that you're going to see more chaos on the streets of America. I believe society is changing. I think things are going to get more dangerous. And you have to be thinking about every scenario here right now. This is not going to just be economic. So people can tell you that, well, if you have cash or if you have gold, you're going to be just fine. It is not going to be enough. You're going to have to be so multidimensional right now in order to survive and prosper through this. You got to have security. You're going to have your finances straight. You're going to have food. You're going to have water. You're going to have skill sets. You're going to have a mental mindset. You're going to have to be physically getting yourself fit right now to survive all this. I think like if you have a weak link right now, this is the time to fix that weak link right now because it's going to be exposed just like everything else. It will be exposed. So cover all your bases, put the odds in your favor the best that you can right now. And if you can only do a little, do a little. A little is going to go a long way down the road here, ladies and gentlemen. But if you're doing nothing, you're going to guarantee failure. You're going to guarantee a nightmare. So do everything in your power to be preparing for this right now. The hedge, auto profit bust looms as inventory and discounts rise at dealers. According to the data provider Cox Automotive, the weekly supply of vehicles at dealerships jumped 740,000 or about 70% higher in March than a year ago. That's a big number. So here's the dilemma though. We have more supply, but we have a declining pool of qualified buyers for these vehicles. And this is exactly what we're beginning to see in the housing market. We're going to see more inventory, like we're beginning to see more cars hitting the lots, but you're going to have a shrinking pool of qualified buyers for automobiles and a shrinking pool of qualified buyers for homes. More supply, but car rates have nearly doubled. Same problem in housing. So if you want to buy a new car today and you take out a loan, the rate is double, literally double what it was a year ago. You want to buy a house today, you need a mortgage, the rate is double of what it was a year ago. So this is going to push out a lot of buyers that cannot afford to be in the market to buy a car or a home. So at some point, we all know what happens. Prices must come down or things just don't sell. So we're going to see more turmoil in housing. We're going to see more turmoil in the auto sector. And I think we're just going to see turmoil across the board here. This economy is really in bad shape. And I can tell you, I've never seen the economy in a more worse condition in my lifetime than right now. And I think most older people would agree that you might be 70, 80, 90 years old. You've never seen it this bad. We're not making anything. We're not manufacturing. Taxes are out of control. There's no opportunity like there was. Debt at $31.5 trillion. Social Security going to take a haircut in 2033. Pensions unfunded. We're talking now about World War III. We're sending billions of dollars to other countries when we can't even fix our own problems here. This is a complete disaster. And when you look at the amount of layoffs every day in this country, this is going to be another thing that affects auto sales and home sales. When you have people out of work, they cannot buy a car and they certainly cannot buy a home. So sooner or later, all this is going to come to a head, no doubt. Best Buy lays off hundreds of store employees as shopping trends shift. What is shifting here is discretionary spending. The consumer doesn't have the money it had a year ago, and they're not going to Best Buy, and they're not buying electronics like they were. In 2020, Best Buy had 125,000 employees. As of January, they had 90,000, and it's shrinking. So if you had a nice job, maybe a management position at Best Buy, I don't know what they make, but maybe they were a homeowner. You look at what's happening in tech, you look at what's happening in retail. Now we're seeing people in transportation, trucking industry starting to take a hit. You look at people who are in the mortgage business, who are in real estate, they're taking big hits now. A lot of these people own homes. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to have to sell these homes. And if they can't sell them, they're going to have to discount them or they're going to lose them. And the bank's going to sell them. So this is all beginning to happen, and it's all going to accelerate here very, very quickly. Commercial real estate market could crash soon. This on Fox Business. How long can the commercial real estate market hang on? I was shooting videos probably at least 3 years ago showing all of you the amount of vacancies in LA, Riverside County, San Bernardino County, Orange County, the retailers, the restaurants, the office buildings. They were in trouble years ago, maybe even 4 years ago. We started really seeing cracks in commercial real estate. With more than 50%, according to this article, with more than 50% of the $2.9 trillion in real estate, it will need to be renegotiated in the next 24 months. And remember, a lot of this was financed with very, very low rates. The rates have gone up substantially, complicating the situation even more, making this matter much, much more concerning, is the biggest source of credit to the $20 trillion commercial real estate market are small and regional banks holding, get this, about 80% of the sector's outstanding debt. When commercial real estate collapses, and it is going to take out so many regional banks, and it's going to take out some big banks too. When commercial real estate implodes, ladies and gentlemen, it is going to be literally like a nuclear bomb going off in the banking sector. So you have to ask yourself, do you want to keep all your money in the bank? And so many people now putting it in money markets or putting it in some of the larger banks because they're concerned about smaller and regional banks. I don't think any bank is 100% safe at this point. Yes, I do agree the bigger banks are going to be safer than the smaller banks. But we need smaller banks, ladies and gentlemen. We really do. And it's sad that, the government is going to look out for the big boys. It's not going to look out for the smaller banks that we're so dependent on. Really, really sad. Here's another one from The Hedge. Commercial real estate is the boa constrictor that will crush the economy and force the Fed to restart quantitative easing. Very, very possible. If if this takes place, it will absolutely destroy the economy, destroy the banking system, and the Fed is going to have nothing, no tools, nothing other than to print a lot of money and just hope and pray for the best. And this will be the end of it right here. And this is when I believe the dollar is going to be absolutely crushed because of all the printing. Countries will see this. They're going to unload dollars as fast as they can. So you're going to have all this printing going on, and then you're going to have all these dollars coming back from all over the world, and you're going to have hyperinflation. And so what do you think happens to gold and silver? This is why I think you have to be very diversified here. I'm not telling people to put all their money in gold and silver, but I think you better have a good portion in it. That's what I'm doing. This is my thoughts, okay? This is what I'm doing because the only thing holding gold back from $5,000 right now is the dollar. And they are propping up the dollar with every trick in the book. And once they can no longer prop up the dollar, what do you think happens to gold? I mean, you don't have to be a nuclear physicist. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. You don't have to have graduated from MIT to know what is going to happen to the metals once the dollar begins to lose its world reserve status or begins to implode. Heaven forbid we see a dollar collapse. I think we're going to have dollars for a long time, but I think the dollar is going to be so weakened that it's going to buy a lot less than it used to, and you better be holding real assets. Retail sales tumbled more than expected in March as consumers pull back on spending. This on Fox Business. A measure of how much consumers spent on a number of everyday goods, including cars, food, and gasoline, tumbled by 1% in March. People's savings, ladies and gentlemen, is tapped out. And they're beginning now to tap out the credit cards. And think about when people no longer have access to credit, right? Small businesses, medium, large businesses, zombie companies, banks, you name it. When this credit liquidity dries up and we have a credit crisis, this is going to affect everybody across the board, from the average consumer all the way up to some of the biggest companies on Wall Street and banks. It's going to affect everybody. But right now, people literally, most people have absolutely no money saved up, zero money in savings, and they're tapping out their credit cards as we speak. And after that, they're at a dead end. And this is why you're going to see more people living in tents, more people knocking on your door for help, more people moving back home, and all this while wages are being crushed. Wages are not keeping up with the cost of living. People spent less on big ticket items like cars, electronics, appliances, furniture, clothing, etc. And what's interesting is gas sales in March were down 5.5%. So gas prices have come down and people are spending less money on gas. So that says that they're not traveling as much. So that's interesting. And it'll be very interesting to see how many people are able to travel this summer. They're cutting down on big ticket items. Will they cut down on traveling? At some point, ladies and gentlemen, when people aren't making money, when the credit cards are tapped out, it's game over. People aren't going to get on an airplane. They're not going to do Airbnbs. They're not buying big screen TVs. They're not buying new MacBooks. They're not going out to dinner. Things are going to change here, and they're changing right now. The Hedge, a record 30% of San Francisco office space is vacant. In 2019, the vacancy rate in San Francisco was 5.4%. Now it's 30%. Anybody thinking that this can't happen to their city, to their town, they're delusional. Banks, corporations, pensions are all invested in commercial real estate. Think about this. Your pension is invested in commercial real estate. Your bank, corporations, everything is just so connected. It's like a spider web. Everything is connected. And when we begin to see commercial real estate implode, it's going to take down a lot of banks, corporations, and pensions along with it, because it's all connected. And when a big bank goes, it's going to take a lot of other banks with it. There's no way out of this, ladies and gentlemen. And this is what happens when you have rates too low for too long, you print too much money for too long, and you give access to all this cheap money to all these companies, to the banks, and people have access to cheap money, and they go out and buy cars, that they can't afford. And the one risk that they don't factor in is, what if I lose my job? Another risk, what if prices of everything goes up? What about inflation? So we have a tsunami here of inflation. We've got layoffs. We're going to see massive amounts of layoffs throughout 2023 into 2024, and prices of everything continuing to go up. Mortgage rates are double than what they were a year ago. You have the Fed raising interest rates. We're going to have another rate hike, in my opinion, in May, and I think we're going to have a total of 3 this year. And this is going to cause more problems as banks are forced to tighten up. They're not going to be able to loan. And this is going to be difficult for small businesses to expand, or for people to start businesses. It's going to be hard for people to buy homes, cars, anything where you need to borrow money. This is going to become very, very difficult because the restrictions to borrow are going to tighten, and the rates to borrow that money are going to go up. So is your pension going to be affected when more of these office buildings and more of this commercial real estate implodes? Is the bank you bank with going to be affected? The corporations that you're invested in, are they going to be in trouble? Again, a lot of this is all going to be exposed. The debt on these buildings used to be 2 to 3%. Now they're rolling over at 5, 6, even 7%, and it could be going higher. So they could sell these buildings, but these buildings right now are selling for 40, 50% than what they were bought for a few years ago. And they could go 80% off. I mean, think about where we're heading right here, where some of these office buildings right now are selling 40 to 50% off and could be selling 80% off later down the road here. So could this happen in housing? Absolutely. You know, somebody told me the other day that out here in California, we could never see housing go 50% off. Well, I remember right here in this area of Riverside County, houses were selling, not in all areas of Riverside County, but there were areas here where houses were selling 80% off. And I saw many homes involved in many of the transactions where homes were selling 50, 60% off and as high as 80% off. So I can tell you from experience that it is not impossible. And to rule it out happening again, is foolish, because it can happen again. This time, the economy is so much worse than 2008. Why wouldn't it? Why couldn't it happen again? Why couldn't it be worse? It could be. And this is why I make these videos, to make sure you are preparing for the worst case scenario, because it's going to be bad, and it could be a lot worse than 2008. So anybody telling you that, oh, homes in California can't be 40, 50% off, they're delusional. They didn't go through 2008, or they want to forget about 2008, where homes were actually going for sale in 2010 off the bank balance sheets. They were selling for 80% off. 50% off, 40% off, 60% off. Land, D.R. Horton, I remember out here, was selling the remaining lots in a development that they stopped. They were selling them for 10 cents on the dollar. So to think that that can't happen again when the debt has tripled, raising rates into a recession, layoffs like we've never seen before, inflation at still at all-time highs, and now the possibility of World War III, and so many other problems, to think that that can't happen again, you're out of your mind. Of course it can happen again, except it could be much worse this time. And this one could last a lot longer. And let's not forget this. Back in 2008, the government stepped in, printed a lot of money to stop it. Things were still falling. Housing was still going down. We don't know how far it would have went down, because we don't let the markets play out, because the Fed has to step right in before it goes down even more. So we don't know how far down it would have went this time. This time around, the Fed, if they begin to print money, it's going to be a big problem. They got away with it last time, but we've lost so much purchasing power in the dollar right now. And we were able to lower rates back then. Now we really can't lower rates at this point, and we really can't print any more money than we've already printed. And where do we start jobs? Where's the job creation going to be? And now we're at $31.5 trillion of debt, and we're talking about World War III. So I mean, it just goes on and on. We could spend an hour just talking about the problems that we have now too. It's going to be a mess. Breaking. President and Trudeau set to announce a deal that sends semiconductor manufacturing jobs to Mexico. So now we're going to build semiconductor plants in Mexico. My question is, why are we not doing it here right now? Why are we doing it in Mexico? And if you want to fix America, if you want to fix this economy, we need to be putting these type of jobs in America right now. We need to be building these facilities. We need to be putting people to work in good, well-paying jobs right here. And we're not doing it. We're going to still just export these jobs anywhere else that we can do it cheaper, and then we're relying on another country to build semiconductors. I don't understand it. I think it's another bad move. I think we should be building everything possible right here in America. That would make us much more reliant on ourselves and not on other countries. Imagine if we were making 90% of our pharmaceuticals right here in America versus 90% being imported. That means we're just not reliant on other countries. We get into an entanglement with another country and they say, hey, we're just not going to ship you pharmaceuticals now. We're in big trouble. We're not going to ship you chips. We're in big trouble. We're not going to ship plastics. We're not going to ship cheap goods to your Walmarts. We're in big trouble. We're in very, very big trouble. So just a little food for thought today. It doesn't look like things are getting better. They continue to get worse. And as I leave you today, do the best that you can to prepare. You can't, this is just not going to be financial. We are in a spiritual war at this moment. You got to be walking close to God. You got to have a mental mindset to prepare for this, in order to get through this. You got to be getting in better physical shape. You've got to have multiple skill sets. You got to have your own security. Again, this is going to be a multi-dimensional event. And if you don't have multi-dimensional skills, you're going to be in big trouble here. Remember, if you cannot protect your assets, somebody is just going to take them. Take a look at what's happening to the retailers that are being forced out of business. A lot of it is the economy plus crime. And once the stores are closed, guess where they're going to go? They're going to go to your houses. If they can't go to a Walmart, if they can't go to a Walgreens, then they start looking at your neighborhood as the next best option. So you better know how to take care of yourself. And so many people out here make these videos and they don't want to talk about the reality of what's coming. And I think maybe because they're very scared and they're very unprepared. The only way you're going to prepare for these events is not just having gold and silver and some cash and having your debts paid off. You better be able to take care of yourself. You better be ready for what comes with an economic collapse, because it's not just discounts. It's just not sales. It's not just deflation that we're going to see. We're going to see upticks in crime, violent crime, chaos, people coming to your house. And if you're not ready for this, I feel sorry for you. God bless.